Now what you just heard is the courting behavior of a nighthawk, which is actually not a hawk whatsoever. It's in the Nightjar family, which includes birds such as the whippoorwills. These birds aren't very large. I think their wingspan is like 22 inches, and when viewed in flight, they have somewhat pointy wings that are curved, almost like a mild boomerang shape, and these two white bands on their wings. They fly high above the treetops, making this buzzing, chirping sound, and then of course you hear that famous ricochet sound shortly afterwards. Now for me, these birds are very sentimental because, well, there's a bit of a backstory. You see, about 13 years ago to the day, my wife had passed away, and a couple of my friends called me up and they're like, "Hey Chris, you probably need some pines time, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely." So, we met up and they took me to some spots because the Pine Barrens were still relatively new to me, and they wanted to show me around and share some of their favorite locations. We did some swimming, we found a lot of cool plants and birds and insects and things, and I actually caught one of the biggest pine snakes I've ever seen. And, it was pretty amazing stuff. So as the day was growing older, they were like, "Okay, now we want to show you something else really cool." And we headed out to a location very much like this one. So they're like, "Okay, now check this out." We look up in the sky and you see those nighthawks flying about, letting out that strange chirping sound that they have. And then they would dive towards the ground, and just before they hit the tops of the trees or the ground itself, they would pull up and you would hear that crazy ricochet sound. I was floored by this experience. I was like, "Holy cow, this is amazing." What's going on? What makes that sound is as the birds pull up, they're only going about 15 to 20 miles per hour, but as they pull up, they have such high wind velocity going over their flight feathers that it causes them to vibrate, and naturally it makes that sound. It sounds like a ricocheting bullet or sometimes a growling, roaring sound, and it was amazing. So we watched that for about 30 or 40 minutes. To me, it felt like 2 minutes because it was such an experience. And then it started to get dark. Their behavior is not done after the sun had set. Once it was dark enough, they're like, "Okay, now here's part 2 of the experience. Head on out to, the landscape and find yourself a sit spot and just wait." So that's what we did. There was 4 of us in total. Each one of us found a separate sit spot and we just sat and waited. As I'm sitting there, it grows dark and my eyes are accustomed, but it's still relatively dark as the horizon stretches outward. But then coming out of the darkness like ghosts were these silent birds flying at you. You're sitting on the ground and these birds are just a few feet above your head, if not exactly at eye level. They come out, they swoop right past you, just like a bat does its flight. And it was simply amazing. And it was so surreal. I'll never forget that experience. Sitting there, hearing those sounds, and then sitting in the darkness all by yourself as these ghosts fly straight at you and around your head in complete silence. It was so cool. Filming them beneath the treetops in the dark has proven to be rather complicated of an endeavor, but I managed to get a couple of shots, and I'll try my best to share it with you. This is definitely an event that you must experience firsthand to really appreciate it, because the camera does it no justice, like many things out there, especially in the evening hours. Wow, right? I mean, for me, it was definitely an unforgettable experience. These Nighthawks are simply something to be astonished over, and if you happen to have Nighthawks in your region, try heading out in July and maybe early August, specifically as the sun is setting, because that's when they fly high above the treetops doing their courting and their diving. And then wait there until after it's dark and just sit and wait. I find when I'm standing they don't do it so much, but if I sit down and I do not use a flashlight, which is why it's hard to film them, they'll actually come right out of the darkness towards you. They don't care that you're there. It's just a continuance of their courting behavior and possibly some of their feeding behaviors. I don't know. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being patient with my storytelling. And I sincerely hope that you have experiences such as this of your own. And if you do, please share them in the comments below. You know, I love when people in the community connect. And storytelling is something that we've done since the dawn of our species. Anyhow, thanks a lot for watching. I'm Chris Egnoto. I'll see you somewhere out here. Actually, I'll see you on YouTube in my next video. I wanted to show my respects to Captain Emilio Carranza Rodriguez. This is a memorial that has been erected in honor of him. You see, he was on a peacekeeping mission back in 1928. And unfortunately, as he was flying over the Pine Barrens, a terrible storm hit and his plane went down. In 1930, I believe, this memorial was erected, and the second Saturday of every July, people come to pay homage to Emilio Rodriguez. And so there's wreaths and flowers and bouquets and stuff, you know, from people all over the country and all over Mexico. And it's a very beautiful remembrance of, you know, Captain Emilio Carranza Rodriguez. I felt, what better a location to film these birds diving towards the earth than this type of place. And I mean no disrespect to, you know, Captain Rodriguez.